This episode is brought to you by Blink. Blink Friday starts now with up to 65% off Blink Smart Security. Check on your pets all season long with new Blink Mini 2K Plus cameras. See your gifts arrive in head-to-toe view with Blink Video Doorbell. Ready to use right out of the box. Just unwrap Blink and go. From pet parents to jet setters to busy families, Blink Friday deals have your holidays covered. Shop now at Amazon.com/Blink.
Say hello to the all-new Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do so much more for you. Need tickets to see your favorite artist? Craving your comfort restaurant? Just sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. It learns your style, anticipates what's next, and makes it happen across Echo, Fire TV, and more. Learn more at Amazon.com/new Alexa.
The Red Apple Media Podcast Network presents This is Protecting America. Now, here's Emmy-winning journalist Rita Cosby.
And welcome to another edition of Protecting America. I'm Rita Cosby. So how dangerous are the policies of the new mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani? And how important was that meeting between him and President Trump in the Oval Office? Well, joining us now to discuss this is one of the best security experts in the business, Lieutenant Steve Rogers. Steve is a retired military officer. He was assigned to the FBI's JTTF, that's the Joint Terrorism Task Force. He was also a lieutenant at the Nutley, New Jersey Police Department and was a naval officer assigned to naval intelligence. Steve, it's great to have you here.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Rita. Thanks for having me.
What troubles you the most about Mamdani and also his views on police?
Well, what troubles me the most, Rita, is everything about Mamdani. One big problem we're going to be facing is the number of individuals who are sympathizing with the socialism, with communism, and looking at his victory as a foundation that they could actually get elected in other cities in other states. We see that happening now in about 48 states. And I'm afraid that unless we put a stop to this, we're going to find ourselves as a country in a very, very serious problem.
What do you think in terms of his views on police, too, especially, and how he has said, you know, police in the past, he's called them racist. He's called to defund the police. What does that do for a police force, especially as big as New York's?
Well, he's no friend of law enforcement, not only in the city of New York, but around the country. Look, we police officers around the country see what's going on in New York. Other states have already put help wanted signs, if you will, at police precincts across New York City. Come, we know you're leaving. Come, you'll be welcome in our city and our states. He has no love for the police at all. And you know, Rita, the guy, he could think and believe he has fooled everyone, including the President of the United States. He hasn't fooled Donald Trump. He hasn't fooled the American people. He's a socialist. He embraces communism, and he's going to be introducing that to the city of New York. And look, we're going to, in short order, things are going to happen very, very bad in New York City. The investors are leaving, businesses are leaving, and you got nearly 5,000 police officers ready to retire and some to resign after January 1st of 2026.
What does that do to have such a gutting of the force if they don't want to stay? How does that impact not only morale at the police department, but also the city safety?
Well, the safety of the city is going to be, it's bad now, but it's going to be catastrophic when that happens. Look, I can't imagine any individual with any common sense telling the American people that we're going to defund the police and replace those officers with mental health experts, especially on domestic violence calls. Now, here's the issue. He has never been in a police car. He has never been on a domestic violence call, and neither have most of the politicians who actually bring to the American people these crazy ideas. They become very violent, Rita. They become from small fights to almost homicides and sometimes homicides. So what is he going to do when somebody calls up and they're being beaten into the wall and the police aren't going to show up, but a mental health expert is going to show up, and that mental health expert, God forbid, and I never want to see this happen, is going to get seriously injured or killed. So that's what's going on in the people's minds, and that's why they want to flee that city. Help will not be on the way when this guy becomes mayor and implements his programs that reduces the number of trained law enforcement officers and replaces them with people who were sitting behind a desk their whole life.
You know, you bring up a great point. The other thing is, too, is I think if I'm a police officer, how much is, say, even if it goes where they bring a social worker with you to the call, that's another person that you have to watch. So not only do you have to watch your own back on a, often frenetic call, and you, like you just said, you never know where it's going to turn on, especially a domestic violence where emotions are running high. And also, then you not only have to watch yourself or your partner, then you have to watch somebody else who, like you said, may not even be trained, even if they do send a social worker with a cop. So either way, that extra person is not a good thing necessarily.
Well, Rita, you bring up a very good point. When we respond to the domestic violence calls, we are not to go in that house or in that apartment without a backup ready, willing, and able to come in with us. Now, of course, if someone's screaming for help, that's why we get paid for it. It's either going to be us or them, and we're going to have to go in. It's happened to me a few times. But the point you brought up is good, because keep in mind that you have 2, maybe 3, let's say 4 officers who are armed. We have to worry about each other. We have to look out for each other. But at least I know the individual officer who's coming in with me has a weapon and can end up saving my life. Now, could you imagine going into a violent situation with someone who's unarmed, not even trained how to deal with the violence that you're going to confront? So you have to worry about protecting them and yourself. But who on earth is going to protect you if that individual, that violent individual in that home, comes after you with a knife, with a gun, or whatever? Who is going to protect you, the police officer? So that's what's going to be going through the minds of a lot of cops.
You think famously also, Steve Rogers, of when many officers turned their backs on Bill de Blasio during one of the police funerals. Remember, it was just the emotions they felt that he didn't have their back. How do you think officers are going to feel under Zohran Mamdani if he carries out many of the promises that he's made?
Well, they're not only going to turn their backs, but they're going to turn their houses, their homes around. They're going to leave the city. They'll probably leave the state. It's going to be a very, very serious problem. And there's no way that anybody that I believe has seen his background, has heard his rhetoric, can believe that he's going to change his mind on anything. He's going to make that state, or that city, into something that he wants. And I say this, Rita, to people. If you don't believe it, look what's happened to London. Look at what's happening to cities in Germany, in France. Look at Paris. I mean, these are like-minded people that have become mayors of some of these cities, like-minded like Mamdani. Look what has happened. That should paint the picture of what's going to happen in New York City in the near future.
The other thing I think of, too, is in some cities and in some blue cities in this country, there have been a lot of people who don't hesitate, it seems like, to attack police. We've seen them attack ICE. We've seen them attack local police departments. You wonder how emboldened some of those people will feel.
Well, they're emboldened now, Rita, and you're right. There's been a dramatic increase in attacks on law enforcement officers nationwide, because we go back to the Democrat Party. I call this the Democrat Party of the 21st century, not the party of JFK or FDR, but the Democrat Party of the 21st century has embraced socialism and communism. And if people want to know how it's going to work out, look at Beijing, China, for example. You breathe the wrong way, you're going to be very, very severely punished by the Chinese Communist Party. You're going to have a situation in New York City and other countries that are going to mirror Communist Party ideologies, and you're going to run into the same situation. So, you know what? The Democrats who are supporting these individuals, they're going to become the targets of their policies. They seem to forget that. It's not only conservatives or red-blooded Americans who love this country. And I know there are a lot of Democrats who love this country. They're patriots. They need to stand up, and they need to say enough is enough and take control of their party back.
How qualified are members of the NYPD? So many people say they're definitely one of the best, if not the best in the country, right?
They're the best in the world. I mean, I'll tell you, I've worked with New York City police officers on some cases over my career. They've got the best criminal forensic labs in the world. They've got the best detectives in the world. I mean, you just look at the pictures on TV, the like Blue Bloods and Hill Street Blues going back, and all these shows were mirrored on NYPD because they are the best. And it's unfortunately because they're going to come from the best, they're going to become the worst. It's not the patrol officers. They're leaving. They're going. It's the leadership that is to blame for what's happening in that city.
And also there, as you brought up, also so many of them are fleeing because they can go to a place like Florida, like Ron DeSantis was one of the first folks, the governor there, as you know, Stephen, he came out and said, hey, NYPD, I'll give you, X $1,000. Please join us because they are so qualified, right?
Yes. You probably won't even have to send them to a police academy for training. In fact, Rita, some of those officers could train some of the officers out here. I was in Florida some time ago, and I met some police officers in Naples, Florida. And I asked them, well, how's it going, guys? How do you like being here? I'm from New Jersey. And they kind of laughed and said, poor you. And they were New York City cops. They had left New York City even about a year ago, and they love it down there. And I said, well, what's the major reason why you love it here? And to a woman, Rita, they told me because the political people here in Florida back us. They back us. They watch our backs. They take care of us, and we get to do the job the way it should be done. Big difference from New York City.
Yeah, and that obviously you need to know when you're out there that the department and from the top has your back. The other thing I think of, too, is that Zohran Mamdani talked about taking discipline actions against the NYPD, sort of taking it away from the commissioner and giving it to CCRB, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, which is a whole bunch of politicians, essentially, most of them with his mindset, that would be judging cops. Talk about how that really, stacks the deck against officers.
Well, I've said since the day the idea of civilian review boards were created that these people are political hacks. They're puppets on a string, and they have to do what they're told. And it's unfortunate because it inhibits the ability of police officers to do their job. I've seen it here in New Jersey, where we have prosecutors in this state who favor more of getting the police behind an internal affairs investigation for the job they did, instead of saying, hey, look, the cops have a rough thing to do. It's a rough job. There was an incident here in New Jersey, Rita, where a police officer found a guy with a gun and had a problem with the guy getting out of the car. So the officer used foul language on the guy. And as a result of that, there was an internal affairs investigation, as I was told, of the cop using that language during an arrest. Now, let me share this with you, Rita. I don't like to use language like that, but when I was a street cop, that is the only kind of language a bad guy listens to. And unfortunately, I go back to what I originally said. Civilian review boards, politicians, all these people making these rules, they've never been in a police car. They've never been in a neighborhood where they're going to be attacked. They're just, as I said before, they're just puppets on a string, and they're doing more damage than good.
One of the things that I really stood out to me, Steve, was when Mamdani was talking about the criteria of who he'd want as a police commissioner. He brought up Jessica Tisch, but he said the reason he liked her was because, remember, she came in under, of course, Eric Adams and, cleaned up the police department, but also did a great job policing, making sure the streets were safe. His priority number one, and he kept saying it over and over again, was that she kind of cleaned up the department and reined in bad cops. Like, that is his view of what a police commissioner is. And then it seemed like public safety was was a distant second or third or fourth.
Rita, I'll tell you a little story about reining in bad cops. The good cops rein them in. The chiefs in each precinct, the precinct commanders, they're the ones doing the work. They're reining them in. Look, I don't know her that well. I've told she's done a good job. That's fine. But she's going to be under the command of an individual who, when he says jump, she's going to have to jump. So if she is the type of police commander that everybody says she is, which has been good according to people, she's not going to last long. She's going to go. But the fact of the matter is that we have good police chiefs, good police commanders, the best cops in the world. They clean up their own act. Good cops will take care of the business with bad cops. And unfortunately, they're the ones that do the job. But you're right. In his view, in Mamdani's view, the best police department to have is to have a police department not concentrating on criminals, the bad guys, the killers, and the rapists, but concentrating on their partners to see if they do something wrong.
Yeah, it seems like the priorities are out of whack, right? I mean, if somebody said, what kind of criteria for a police commissioner, the first thing I would say is who understands the community, who understands fighting crime, who understands getting tough on criminals. His was getting tough on cops.
Yeah, and who does that? Who understands the community? Who understands getting tough on crime? Who understands that there's problems in the house on Main Street, there's kids on drugs? The street cop, the cops right there on the streets, they're the ones that are doing the job. And unfortunately, and we've seen it here in New Jersey and other blue states, the police will always do their job, but there's something called reactive patrol and proactive patrol. Reactive patrol is getting there after the crime. Proactive control is trying to prevent a crime. There's been a lot less proactive patrol because at the end of that day, it's the cop who gets in trouble and not the bad guys.
What do you make of the fact that the strategic response group, that he wants to get rid of this specific group? That's the group that responded to that mass shooting when the guy opened fire in the, big work building that took place in Midtown Manhattan not that long ago. It's also the group that goes when these protests get out of hand and reins them in. And yet he's saying, no, we're going to get rid of that group in particular because he thinks these protests, he keeps saying they're First Amendment. It makes me wonder, Steve, if people are holed up in Hamilton Hall, or blocking entrances to Jewish students going somewhere or getting into a temple and they're blocked. Is that First Amendment? Like, it scares me a little bit that he clearly wants to get rid of that group because he believes those people have a right to be out there and protest. And it makes me wonder, where is the line? Is he going to keep letting them protest when they, break into a store? Or they threaten somebody? Or they do something to a cop or a Jewish student?
Well, it's insanity, Rita. These are not just protesters. They're paid agitators. A lot of them are paid from foreign governments in some cases, from radical groups. They're paid from individuals that want to see other individuals get hurt. And you're right. What's he plan to do if he does have a situation where one of the colleges in New York are overrun by groups like Antifa? What is he going to do, especially if some of these groups are going to be well armed? And they will be well armed at one point, especially if they know cops aren't coming. The strategic planning that the police department of the city of New York had was with this group of officers that were extremely good at what they do. They're trained on how to pick targets, not to hurt, not to kill, but to apprehend. And in addition to that, as a result of him eliminating the strategic response team, he's going to eliminate the ability of the police to get as much intelligence and information possible to prevent the tragedies that we've seen over the years in that city, especially when it comes to big protests. So your intelligence groups are going, your information gathering techniques are going to be going, and as a result, guess who's going to win the war on the streets? The bad guys.
Yeah, which is scary. And also, let's not forget, too, also, Steve, that he was one of the guys protesting. I mean, when there was, I think at Grand Central, he was there protesting. He was blocking one of the bridges. He was actively involved as a protester. And when he was asked during the campaign, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep protesting? He said, no, I'll be leading from the mayor's office. But he didn't say, I'm going to stop. In other words, maybe he's going to be leading the protests from the mayor's office. It was a bit confusing to people.
Yeah, it sure is. But one thing that puzzles me, Rita, and maybe you caught this and I didn't. Remember when he was with the President of the United States in the Oval Office?
Of course, yep.
And the reporters were asking questions. I was waiting for a reporter to ask him this one question in front of the President. Will you have the Prime Minister of Israel arrested when he sets foot in New York City? I wanted that question answered because he would have to use the New York City Police Department to make the arrest. You know
what's interesting, Steve? Did you hear he was asked sort of that question, but he danced around it and he didn't sort of get the follow-up, I guess, to your point, because he was asked, are you still planning to? And then he kind of went back to, international law, which I take as a yes. It was fascinating. Troubling.
Typical politician. But my point is he'd have to use the New York City Police Department. And you could imagine, now to your point regarding the strategic response team, when the Prime Minister of Israel comes here and there's going to be massive protest completely out of control, what is he going to do? What is he going to do? He's going to need that response team to make sure that the people who are protesting doesn't get near the Prime Minister where they could actually end up hurting him or, God forbid, killing him. This guy is completely on another planet with regard to managing a city. But people are going to learn. They're learning now, but unfortunately, they're going to learn. And one individual, Rita, said to me a few weeks ago, maybe, just maybe, this is one of those odd blessings in disguise, because when the people across America see what's going to happen in New York City, they're going to wake up and they're going to fight back. And I'm not talking about fighting back outside the law. I've always said we've got to fight back within the framework of the law. We could do it peacefully. We could do it without bearing arms and fighting with weapons on the streets. It's rising up as American citizens who believe, because we do talk about it, believe in the Constitution of the United States and get to the polls and turn everything back the way it should be.
Right. Maybe it's sadly a huge wake-up call. I agree. Before I let you go, Steve Rogers, your reaction to the meeting, too. You talked a little bit about it. What did you make of Zohran Mamdani there in the Oval Office next to the President of the United States? I give him a lot of credit that he at least met with him, and it was entertaining for sure. But what I found fascinating is after the meeting, Mamdani is now saying that no, there was no guarantee whatsoever from the president that he won't send National Guard in, that he won't, withhold money. So clearly President Trump said, I'll get along with you as long as you do the right things. And I think this is going to be a short-lived, cordial relationship. Your thoughts?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, it was entertaining. I found it fascinating, but I loved every minute of it because, we all know President Trump, how he operates, He made it pretty clear in his way that he, the President of the United States, is the boss. So if you think you're going to get away with the things that you're planning, it's not going to happen. And so at the end of the day, my hat's off to the President, and we'll see where all this goes. But I'll tell you what, the President, he's a Queens guy. I'm a Brooklyn guy, and we kind of know how it goes in New York. But you got a guy that's never been from New York going up against a guy that invested in the city of New York, who's street smart, by the way. President Trump is street smart too. So I was fascinated by it, but I thank God it happened, and, let's hope for the best, all right? Maybe some good will come out of it. Let's just hope for the best. Pray about it.
Let's pray. Exactly. Well, everybody be sure to subscribe and share to this podcast. And Lieutenant Steve Rogers, thank you so much. This was such an important conversation. Really great to have you here.
Oh, likewise. My pleasure. Take care now.
And everybody, I'll be back soon with another great edition of Protecting America. And of course, you can catch me every weeknight, 10 p.m. to midnight on the legendary WABC Radio. This is Rita Cosby, and thanks for all you do to protect America.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here, wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.